Kind of fascinating. My biggest hope is that by tomorrow we won't have infighting going on.
Yeah, right.
Let there be peace. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Sorry. I know I don't have any talent. Dr. Harvey Wilkinson told me. So, I've got an authority, behind that. Well, we're still a little early, so I don't want to get started on official business yet, but it's been an exciting morning already, though.
Oh, yeah.
I'm wondering, I could see some more folks coming, walking, but, from the parking lot. But the weather's supposed to be hellacious today.
Is it? I didn't even look.
It's supposed to be very high winds, and it's supposed to turn into snowy rain and rainy snow, and
Oh, it's the worst.
and they've already had 3 electric poles knocked down on the old Seward, not the new Seward, but the old Seward, over in Spenard, and 3,100 families are out of power. And it's supposed to remain that way until, of course, they fix the poles, which should take at least till this afternoon.
Oh, wow.
And I'm thinking, if the wind is getting higher, I wouldn't want to be on one of those lifts trying to fix and rewire a pole.
There's electrical that.
In this kind of weather.
Stuff.
Yeah, you could be zapped. And in fact, my grandfather on my mother's side, my mother's father, was an engineer and died in an explosion at a railroad lot, where they were working on repairing, I guess, a steam engine, and it blew up, and that killed my grandfather.
Wow.
So that's, what's odd was I had heard earlier that he was an engineer and was working on the elevators in the Ben Franklin Hotel in Philadelphia when he got electrocuted and died. And so I have a grandfather that died 2 different ways.
Yeah.
But when my parents died, I and my siblings and even my nieces and a couple nephews were all cleaning out my mom and dad's house, and because we were getting it ready to sell, and so going through all their stuff and all the stuff and the different things they had saved, we found a little clipping, a newspaper clipping, that indicated that my grandfather had actually died in the train accident, not in the other story. I had no clue where that other story came
It's
from.
weird how family telephone plays out.
I have I like the reference to the game telephone. So meanwhile, it's 10 o'clock exactly. So I'll start business, and the main concern I have, let me go and share the screen here. Oh, we got somebody saying something. Good morning. Good morning. All right, let me share the screen here and use Chrome. And I want let's go here. What's that showing? Okay, that should be it. Okay. So, according to the syllabus, and that's my contract with you, of course, I have a test 3 that is due November 9th, which is this Saturday. in fact, I mean, this is the 5th, and here I am last night finally posting the test. It doesn't give you a heck of a lot of time. So number one, don't worry about it if you end up not getting it in on time, because I'm the one that's late, actually. But I'm still faced with the odd question of how to make the online tests, because they're online even if you're in class, essay tests when we're doing logic. And so I thought of a couple questions that we had discussed a little bit in class that were easily turned into essay questions. So I have the first two here. Describe the hero's journey, and I have a link to the webpage we looked at. I posted this, by the way. It's on two places. I thought, the one place on Blackboard says tests, and I thought, I've not used that. Let's post my test there. So just out of benevolence, I suppose, I posted not only test 3 there, but I posted test 1 and test 2 just in case people were wondering. Because I looked around and I thought, where the heck is that? Where would people find that? It would be at least hard to find. This is posted on Blackboard there under tests, but also under course content where I've been posting everything. And that's where I thought I had this, these posted, and it wasn't there. But so anyway, the first question is describe the hero's journey. There's the link to the Wikipedia on the hero's journey. And explain if each person naturally has their own version of such a monomyth that outlines their life. That's a yes, no, but I mean, that's totally, a perspective question. One of the kinds of questions I like, because you should have no trouble easily writing 300 words to that without even having to be right or wrong. So that's an easy one, yes, a fun one, maybe. Plus, it's actually a personal question in the sense that we're examining not only the idea that every person has that, but I'm the subject of my own hero's journey. What's my hero's journey? Do I have some? And I quickly said that day that we were talking about it, that yes, my at least current perspective on my journey is that I'm tasked in my life with finding out as much as I can about everything, and then sharing that with all the poor folks that get to listen to me, which is, so there's humor in that story too. But yeah, there it is, the quest for knowledge. I feel like I'm part of the big discussion, the big conversation or the great conversation. There's lots of ways of talking about that. And I'm not a significant part of it. I'm in fact deliberately hiding from
Part of it.
the bulk of civilization. I've not chosen to live in New York City or Los Angeles or any place with 1 million people plus. I have lived in those places. I lived for 3 years in Berlin. I grew up in Philadelphia. 4.5 years living in between Washington, D.C. and every place else, Baltimore. I've even lived in Texas, only about 4 months, but hey, I lived in Texas, and of course here in Alaska and even Hawaii. I spent 3 years in Hawaii. In any case, this is nice, because we know that there's not even 1 million people living in the state, and the state's the biggest state there is in the U.S. It's not contiguous U.S. state. It's a continental state, though, because we've got Canada disconnecting us from the rest of the 48 lower, the lower 48, as we call them. So I'm hiding, in a sense, from civilization by living here where there's so few of us. And by the way, it worked out really well for me because there apparently aren't that many people with degrees in philosophy living in Alaska. And as a result, when I walked in, after retiring from the Army, I walked into the philosophy department, handed a letter asking if I could teach for the department, and they called me the next day and gave me a job. So it's not like I even had a hard time applying for it. I mean, I did have to prove my credentials. I did have to get a reference letter, and that was easily done. I still have a copy of it, and so on. So it's not like I wasn't qualified. It's just that the competition was zilch as far as what I discovered, because there aren't that many people here that are interested in this stuff. And yet it strikes me as really crazy, because being interested in philosophy is a contemplative kind of life. You don't want to be in New York City and debating people constantly, although I guess that's one way of doing it. I mean, David Chalmers moved from Australia, which was kind of like Alaska, to New York City, and he's been there and active. I mean, he even shaved and cut his hair, to be, and the new ones, he's like, who is that? But in any case, so living a contemplative life means like sitting on the mountaintop with nobody bothering you. And in a way, Alaska's like that. You can easily find places to go and hike and just look at the scenery and commune with nature. But Anchorage is absolutely beautiful, in my opinion, because you've got nature. You can see it from here, right? Isn't that what they say about Anchorage? Lost Anchorage, it's so close to Alaska. You can see it from here. And then, but yet, and yet there's a way of fiscally surviving. The university hired me in 1995 and has kept hiring me ever since, which is kind of amazing. So that's, one of the reasons why I've come to feel I live here. It's a perfect place for someone with my interests. It makes my life absolutely wonderful, and I wish everybody had as wonderful an opportunity. I mean, it's not like you're going to get rich, but that's, if you're studying philosophy, that's not really what you're thinking about doing. I mean, it's not like I feel sorry for Elon Musk.
No. It's a different set of values, you know what I mean?
They clearly have a different schedule during their day, Okay, so that's question one. What's your, thoughts on the hero's journey? Does everyone have that? Even the person that's sulking in the room and feel like they have nothing to do, and I know people like that, are unable to say that there is no such journey that they're on. I mean, that was Frederick Jameson said that in the beginning of, he wrote the preface to Jean-Francois Lyotard's book, The Postmodern Crisis. Wasn't it? The Postmodern Crisis, I think. The state of knowledge in the postmodern world, where he basically tries to argue throughout the whole book that no one can believe in the traditional meta-narratives anymore. They're trashed because of the conflict between science and the old traditional narratives, which were essentially religious.
Like a Freudian thing.
Well, yeah, there's certainly a connection. Yeah. Lyotard is dead now. He killed himself smoking, kind of a typical French disease. You know, if you ever look at the traditional French intellectuals, they're smoking